Hey there. I'm honestly glad you showed up. If you tap that subscribe button, it'd really make my day. But let's get straight to it. Jackson Cole never saw the surprise coming. At 46, birthdays weren't his thing. Celebrating in general wasn't, if we're being honest. But public embarrassment? That hit him blindsided. Especially in his own house, the one he paid for, now filled with strangers he'd never welcomed. His wife, Valerie, had promised a laid-back evening. Just dinner with some people from her yoga class, she said. She went all out. Fancy takeout, a $90 bottle of red wine. She never offered him a drop. Jackson stayed off to the side, clutching a lukewarm soda in a cheap paper cup, a guest in his own kitchen. And then the laughter started, high-pitched, stinging. A young woman's voice rang out. "Wait, is that your dad?" It was Haley, their 17-year-old daughter, barely looking up from her phone, more interested in impressing her trendy new crowd than acknowledging the man who taught her to ride a bike. She gave a half-glance and a wicked grin. "Yeah, that's him. Unclogs drains for a living. Thinks that makes him a big shot." The table howled with laughter, every cackle cutting into Jackson like glass. He didn't respond. Not outwardly. But then Haley twisted the knife. "You're nobody," she said, her voice cold and deliberate. At the other end of the table, Valerie raised her glass, smiling like a queen delivering a verdict. "You needed to hear it," she said, gesturing toward a man Jackson hadn't noticed until now. Crisp suit, shiny watch, smug eyes. "Meet Chad," Valerie said. "He owns 3 restaurants. He's everything you never managed to be." No one disagreed. No one spoke up for him. Not even Haley. Jackson didn't yell, didn't throw anything, didn't ask for an explanation. He just stood up, walked upstairs, and packed a single duffel. No shouting. No goodbye. When he stepped outside, it wasn't the fall air that stole his breath. It was the unbearable quiet, the kind that only comes after years of slow, silent betrayal. He drove until the lights of the city thinned out, finally pulling into a dimly lit park. He parked beneath a flickering lamppost and let the stillness settle around him like an old blanket. His phone vibrated. 29 missed calls, 1 from Haley, 2 from Valerie. The rest were unknown, and 1 from Chad. Jackson stared at the screen for a long moment, then a slow smile crept across his face. They thought he was done. But they had no idea this was the moment he'd been bracing for all along. He shut off the phone, not out of fear, but because he didn't need it anymore. That night, he slept in the back of his truck, outside a dingy laundromat that reeked of bleach and old sweat. It wasn't cozy, but it was his, and it was peaceful. By sunrise, he was in a corner booth at the Clover Diner, the kind of place where the coffee flows non-stop and no one rushes you out the door. He drank it black, scorching and bitter, letting the heat anchor him. He wasn't shattered. He was beginning again. This wasn't about getting even. Not yet. It was about taking back power. He pulled out his battered old laptop, the one Valerie used to mock, and logged into the Wi-Fi. No searches for therapists, no self-help mantras. He looked up divorce lawyers, forensic accountants, private investigators. He wasn't stirring chaos. He was gathering ammunition. 3 hours later, he'd hired Brooks Mason, a former detective known for staying silent and digging deep. Brooks didn't chase drama. He uncovered leverage, solid, undeniable facts. By the end of the week, Brooks delivered. Pictures, bank records, even a video. Chad wasn't just involved with Valerie. He was sleeping around behind her back too. Hostesses, interns, a personal trainer from across town. But that wasn't the real find. Chad's business empire? A crumbling facade. His restaurants were in financial freefall. The books were doctored, revenue misreported, and one of the locations had been built illegally on rezoned land. Jackson's grin returned. This wasn't about the affair. This was about pulling out the support beams and watching the entire tower fall. He forwarded the documents to the IRS, then to a few investigative journalists. and quietly handed them to a divorce lawyer. Valerie's name, all over the paperwork, as co-signer, partner, and beneficiary. Let them laugh now. When this avalanche started, it wouldn't stop until everything they'd built came crashing down. And Haley? She was helping him without even knowing it. Her social media was a gold mine. "Mom and Chad spoiling me again," one caption read, under a selfie from a luxury boutique. Another post showed Chad tossing cash in a designer store. Jackson sent every post straight to his attorney. Why? Because those purchases were still on credit lines tied to Jackson's name. And they had no clue. The unraveling didn't begin with a bang, but a soft thud. At a bank office, of all places. Valerie stood tall, dressed to the nines, sunglasses oversized, heels clicking like gunshots. Chad loomed beside her, absorbed in his phone. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Cole," the banker said calmly. "It's Ms. Cole," Valerie corrected sharply. Unfazed, the banker continued, "Apologies, Ms. Cole. This account was closed 2 weeks ago. Your name was officially removed. You no longer have access." Valerie's fingers tightened on the counter. "That's impossible. That's our account. That's my money." The banker turned the screen toward her. "It's now solely under Mr. Cole's name. The changes were notarized and verified at our downtown branch." Valerie stared at the monitor like it had slapped her. "There must be some mistake. We've used that account for—" "Not anymore," the banker said without blinking. Chad leaned forward, puffing himself up. "Do you even know who I am?" The banker didn't flinch. "Doesn't matter, sir." Fuming, Valerie spun on her heel and stormed out, Chad stumbling after her. "He wouldn't do this," she muttered. But Jackson already had. A few hours later, they returned to the house and found a bright yellow notice stapled to the front door. "Pending seizure. Unpaid commercial taxes." Valerie's face went rigid. She tore the paper off and scanned the fine print. "This is about his business," she snapped. "It's not connected to us." But it was. Chad had signed her name, carelessly or deliberately, on several legal documents. Now she was tangled up in the fallout. Across the street, parked in a dusty gray sedan, Jackson watched from behind tinted windows. Brooks sat in the passenger seat, sipping gas station coffee like it was fine bourbon. "She's coming apart," Brooks murmured. "Won't be long now." Inside the house, Haley's voice echoed, sharp and whiny. "Mom, why's the Wi-Fi down? I can't get on Netflix. I can't even open TikTok. This is ruining everything." Jackson didn't crack a smile. But deep inside, something settled into place. The reset was underway. Valerie stayed silent. Her eyes remained glued to the screen, paralyzed, breath caught in the hollow space where everything unraveled. That same night, Jackson made his move. He had waited patiently, letting them settle into comfort, lavishly spending on his dime, indulging in the life they had once mocked him for. For one evening only, he reinstated the credit cards, just enough to let them sink into illusion, dining, shopping, believing they had finally won. And then, he cut it all off, ruthlessly. In the middle of a high-end dinner at a downtown steakhouse, the bill pushing past $700, the cards began to decline, one by one. The restaurant manager lingered awkwardly near the table as Valerie dug through her purse in rising panic. Chad muttered something about calling customer service. Every humiliating second was captured. Jackson had made sure of it. A quiet word to the manager ensured the security cameras were rolling. Just hours later, a photo showed up on Yelp. The title, "Entitled Couple Melts Down After Card Refusals. Blame Ex for Chaos." The snapshot showed Chad mid-expletive, face red, and Valerie clutching her phone as if salvation might come through it. Jackson leaked the image to a local gossip site anonymously. By sunrise, it had gone viral, but that was only the start. Before the morning was over, Jackson's lawyer received a call from the IRS. A tip had triggered a formal audit. Chad's financials were now under scrutiny for suspected tax fraud. Valerie, connected to him by both proximity and financial entanglement, was dragged into the investigation. Her job at the law firm immediately slipped into jeopardy. She was suspended without warning. Her social media went dark. The shimmering facade of her rebuilt life began to crumble in real time. Meanwhile, Haley posted a bubbly Instagram story. New dad took us shopping again, shopping emoji blessed leveled up life. Jackson smirked when he saw it. The Louis Vuitton bag in the video? Purchased on his account, flagged as an unauthorized charge, sent straight to his attorney, documented, archived, ammunition. Jackson never raised his voice. He didn't have to. Silence, he knew, had the sharpest edge, and with it he carved deeper than rage ever could. By the time the city paper dropped its front-page story, Valerie had lost control of the narrative. The headline screamed, "Restaurant tycoon under IRS probe, romantic partner implicated." In bold, beneath a grainy photo of Chad trying to dodge cameras, sunglasses on, scarf wrapped like a disgraced celebrity. But the real gut punch wasn't the picture. It was the subhead, Valerie Cole, executive at Flag Financial Activities. Her firm moved swiftly. By midday, her accounts were locked. Her work email terminated. HR sent a curt, formal message. Effective immediately, you are suspended pending review. Return all company property at once. Valerie called Jackson. Once, twice, 28 times in total. No answer. Just one voicemail, her voice cracking. "I don't know what you've done, but we need to talk. You're destroying everything. Please. For Haley." Jackson didn't call back. Instead, he sent a single photo, their anniversary dinner 2 years ago. Valerie lifting a glass, smirking, the same smirk she wore the night she discarded him. This time, the image was her undoing. Beneath it, a chilling message. "You toasted your freedom, now drink every drop." That evening, Valerie returned to what used to be her sanctuary. The curtains were gone, the television, gone. Art, furniture, all of it, vanished, repossessed, legally. Jackson had orchestrated the retrieval of every item tied to his name. This wasn't vengeance, it was balance. The front door groaned as she stepped in, heels clicking against empty hardwood. Dressed to impress, she looked like a ghost in couture, sharp but unraveling. She dropped to the floor, stunned. Her phone buzzed. Haley's voice trembled from upstairs. "Mom, someone made a video about us." Valerie didn't move. "It's everywhere," Haley whispered. Valerie bolted up the stairs, snatched the phone, and stared. A YouTube video stared back. Wife destroys husband's birthday, but he gets the last word. Over 1.3 million views. The footage was edited with precision. Clips from the failed dinner, Valerie's texts to Chad, Haley mocking her father during the party. Even the restaurant meltdown, cut together with music and captions that made the message unmistakable. The comments rained down. "This is cinematic perfection. Haley got exactly what she asked for. Never speak to your dad like that. He didn't break, he upgraded. Someone give this man a Pulitzer." Valerie's hands shook, her skin drained of warmth. Haley, once a star of social media tantrums, was now sobbing. "They're calling me entitled, a monster," she cried. "I can't scroll without seeing hate. It's everywhere, Mom." Valerie reached out, but Haley recoiled. The walls felt like they were closing in. Then came the final blow. Chad called. His voice was clipped, his charm gone. "This is out of control," he barked. "Investors are backing out. Legal says your ex probably recorded all of it. Clean. I'm not going down for this." Valerie tried to hold on. "We can fix it, Chad. We just—" "I'm out." Click. No apology. No goodbye. Just silence. The man she'd gambled everything for had vanished. She collapsed, unable to breathe, eyes vacant. Then the door creaked again. She flinched, expecting press or paperwork. Instead, Jackson walked in. Black coat, cold air trailing him like a ghost. Her voice barely made it out. "Oh!" He didn't rush. He scanned the room with calm detachment, like someone observing the ruins of a storm. "I'm not here to argue," he said quietly. "Just came to return something." He placed a small velvet box on the coffee table, the same table where she'd once toasted to temporary love. Her eyes locked on it. Inside was the ring she'd once hurled into the sink with a laugh. "I pulled it out," he murmured, "before the movers came." Then he laid down a folded check beside it. She stared at him, confused. "What's this?" He met her gaze evenly. "Your share. After the legal fees, debts, fraud, everything." She unfolded it. $1. "You called me temporary," he said, stepping toward the door. "Now you're the one left." He didn't slam the door, didn't turn back. People like her didn't earn the sound of rage, just the hollow of his silence. The peak of autumn had settled in, and the air was heavy with the smell of burning wood and something earned through struggle. This wasn't just a pause between chapters. It was a form of redemption. Within the cabin's wooden frame, the silence no longer carried sorrow. Instead, it spoke softly of healing, of what had been taken back, not what had been lost. Photos lined the shelves like watchful witnesses. One captured a hike through Glacier National Park, his brother beside him, both younger then. Another framed moment showed a dignified handshake with the executive who had brought him into a key urban water infrastructure deal, an image that held its own quiet dignity. Yet by the hearth stood a newer photo, modest and almost easy to overlook. A candid shot, him beside a woman whose hands bore the marks of effort and truth. A woman who knew how to honor hard work, who never traded warmth for leverage. Joy hadn't simply happened to Jackson. He didn't stumble upon it by luck or chase it in desperation. He had built it, deliberately, with patience, one stone at a time. And perhaps the most powerful part? He didn't fight for attention, didn't make grand declarations. He just removed himself and let the truth rise as it always does. A muted buzz broke the stillness. His phone lit up on the kitchen counter. A message waited. From Brooks Mason. Jackson opened it. Final update. Chad filed bankruptcy last month. IRS seized nearly everything. Valerie's waitressing at a diner on I-93. Couch surfing, apparently. Haley moved in with friends, completely offline now. No updates, no noise. Seems she's starting to grasp what she let go. He read it through twice. There was no swell of victory. No quiet pleasure at another's downfall, just a stillness, like the breath after a long storm. It was never revenge he wanted, never justice measured in scars. It had always been about not letting betrayal write his story. It had been about rising, with dignity intact, without ever raising his voice. He deleted the message, then reached for a drawer near his desk, pulling out a worn piece of paper. The edges were frayed, the handwriting instantly familiar. "Dad, I'm sorry. I was too young to see clearly. I messed up. I miss you. If I could go back, I would. Haley." It had arrived 6 months ago. He hadn't answered. Not because he didn't care, but because peace, once built, needs to be protected, and he had laid every brick of his. Outside, sunlight shimmered across the lake like a silent promise. His coffee sat untouched on the porch as he stepped onto the dock. Across the still water, the distant call of a loon echoed. The wind shifted, carrying the crisp scent of pine and change. And somewhere deep in his chest, something finally released. He was no longer the man overlooked at his own celebration. No longer the one quietly bleeding from the wounds others gave. He was the man who had reconstructed everything, quietly, fully, and without regret. There was no resentment left inside him, nothing broken that still needed mending, only freedom. And as the breeze wrapped around him, a final, unshakable truth settled within. This is where the story closes. Let me know what this story brought up for you in the comments. Thanks for spending this time here. If it moved you, there's more where it came from. Until next time, take care of yourself.